Yeah, hello. Um, Greetings, everyone. Let's give maybe a few seconds more for the rest participants to join, and we will start. Okay. Yeah, hello, everyone. So let's continue. So a few words about the company. While I introduce myself, can you please type in a chat just from what industry are you in? It would be good information for me to know on which industries to focus, which, for example, examples or case study to be more specific with, so you could get the most after this webinar. While you are typing this, also please type if you can hear me, see everything's okay. If everything's good, we can just continue. So with that, a few words about our company. We have a few solutions about the whole supply chain, starting from the inventory management, warehouse management, distribution management, transport management system, and even the inventory management, shelf space in merchandising for the retail, and even the finance block, right? So with that, I see that we have mainly FMCG. I have some agriculture. Good, thank you. So now let's continue about the market realities. So the problem is that doesn't matter if you're Eastern Europe, like Western Europe, or the Americas, or even the Africa, the problems are roughly the same in the supply chain, obviously with each different aspect, but everyone facing the labor issues. It's hard to maintain the staff, facing inaccurate forecast. And a couple of years ago, we was thinking that we had problems. Then the COVID strike, the war in Ukraine, Middle East, container crisis, right? And it's all getting more inaccuracy, more uncertainty in our future. And despite of those issues, we have more items to manage. Our supply chain is getting more complex, and still we need more efficiency of the supply chain. We want them to be more agile, more responsive, and more effective. Less inventories, higher service level, be more fast, be more agile, right? And everything, because the more complicated system it is, the more options it has to break, right? And still there is a lot of effort that we need to put this to maintain the consistency, the resilience of the system. There's a lot of additional work. But despite this situation, the industry stuck in the past. This picture that you see, it's literally just a picture from the Apollo capsule, right? So why I'm using this picture is just to show how complex it is, right? That time, if you wanna fly, for example, in the Apollo capsule, right? You need to not only know by heart of those buttons, switches, how they work. You need to have the perfect health, physical, mentally, etc. So the requirements was very high, and only few people can basically comply with them. Something similar we are having in the supply chain. It takes years of practice for the people to learn by heart all the switches and know how to operate the system. It's highly complex, it's outdated, it's operator dependent, and as I mentioned, require deep training and experience for years. And if you have this person and the person leaves or being promoted, you would end up with a big gap and very hard to maintain this. But now we see that people are being sent to the space with the Apollo Dragon capsule, right? Just in a cool suit and the tablets on and everything automated, right? So why we cannot use the same approach in the supply chain management? Why everything has to be complex and not agile, right? So with this vision in mind as an end goal, we develop our Intuiflow system with the demand-driven methodology concept and with the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning that enables way better automated results and is not so operator or user dependent, but it allows the user to focus only what actually is important. So with that being said, we need to focus on what actually matters the most. So the first one obviously is the high service level. And we help our clients to achieve the high service level while reducing inventory at the same time, which obviously unleashes the working capital. But it's very important to make the system stable because the stability of this on operational level brings you effectiveness as well. It's hard to be effective if you're highly volatile, and we get to this in the real case studies example. We will discuss this in more details, and we should make system easy and intuitive for user to use this, right? This is very important now at time, but unfortunately very often we are just leaving this out of sight, right? We are not focusing this about the simplicity and the management of the system. So this is a few clients globally from that uses currently Intuiflow, the system I'm talking about. Maybe you know some big ones like Caterpillar, Coca-Cola, Pierre Fabre, Michelin, Total, etc. Right? So this is the case study from different industries. There will be two slides, one from Eastern Europe, one global. So those are the companies like Eastern Europe. So UCO is the lubricants for for the machinery. Monomach is the tea company. Kormotech is the one of the leader in the pet food industry. I will basically focus on them in more details today, right? And our global clients, I'm currently working with the Coca-Cola Beverages Africa, helping them maintain and make more efficient supply chain with the tool, with our tool. But this is the results that the head of supply chain presented in the conference in 2019. So this is what actually can be achieved, right? And again, I will focus on this case study more. Michelin company making very good results. Just a few words about Michelin. So they was expecting to increase service level and decrease inventories because this is the most expected results, and we speak about this at the end of presentation. But what Thibaut on his keynote mentioned, Thibaut is the vice president of supply chain in Michelin. He said that the real savings come not from the service level and stock reduction. The real savings come from additional cost reduction, because those uncertainty, volatility, and extra expedites, air freight, etc., was a real source of additional cost, because Michelin was trying to provide the highest service possible, and by switching to the new approach and the new tool, they had even better results. So what is behind all this breakthroughs in supply chain efficiency? At the root cause is not the tool itself, right? Because the system is just codified view of the methodology. But the methodology is called demand-driven MRP. So how it differs from the traditional? In traditional MRP world, right? When you have the forecast, based on the forecast, you build production plan, based on production plan, you have your material requirements, right? So you know how much and when to purchase, because you know how much and when you will be building. Why? Because you know how much and when you are planning to sell. Well, we know that we do not know this, but we just make this assumption that we know, because how else can we operate, right? We need to make this assumption to give the stability. Well, actually, you don't need this, right? That's the drawback from the current approach. Yes, you need a forecast, and you can use this to prepare the system for the upcoming sales, but not build to the forecast and then see, okay, this part, this number of parts, I was very good in forecasting. This they have too little, this they have too much. And those sides of the spectrum, too little and too much, are usually the combine a majority of the SKUs, right? So the problem is, how can I change the situation when they have majority in the optimal condition and only a few SKUs the outliers? That's how this DDMRP differs, because we are not building to the forecast, we're preparing the system to cover the sales that are coming, right? And the real sales order, that's why we have the icon of this supermarket shopping cart, right? Because this sales order, it is what actually builds, drives this priority for inventory management. So one slide, how this methodology looks like. So it takes, so it's the method of modeling, planning, and management supply chain to protect the flow of relevant information and materials. And behind each word on our webinar, you will see how the modeling looks like. In other words, we will see the projection of the supply chain daily, let's say 1 year ahead, how our supply chain would look like. Planning is basically automated ordering of material, components, planning finished products, and managing supply chains is focusing of the planners of those exceptions that really matter. Do not analyze all 1,000 SKUs that you have. Just take a look at those 5, 10 that really matters, that really affects your supply chain, right? So, and it's not become just out of the thin air, so is the years of experience from these different industries. It takes a lot of MRP. We still have those bill of materials as classical MRP system. There's the logic how to build distribution network, how the buffer is calculated. The buffer is the target inventory level we will mention here. Is actually taking a lot of, taking some ideas behind it from the lean management. The word buffer itself, you know, the 3 zones, the critical chain project management logic is also used in this DDMRP from theory of constraints. You know, all the run charts, management by exceptions, and the focus of managing and of the variability, right? Again, it's from the Six Sigma, and there is block of innovations that makes those ideas and tool not to confront each other, but to support and build more, again, reliable, agile, and resilient system. So how does it look like? So we know the classic approach, how the demand-driven approach looks like. So again, we have 4 figures, right? The dark ones, it means strategic level. The lighter one means operations, right? So 1 second, let me make a laser pointer. Okay, so what is the model configuration looks like? So from the demand planning, we can develop some forecast. In other words, it's our business plan. What and what quantities we are expecting to sell, what the business plan looks like. It doesn't mean we will take the forecast and we will build it. No, because obviously we will be wrong, and we know this. So how can we manage this? So we take this forecast and we directly use this to build the projection. In other words, we need to identify strategic priorities and the capacities of our system. We wanna have this return loop back to see if, okay, we are planning to sell this amount of goods, right? This product portfolio. What would the average inventories be? The service level, the load of our equipment, and the investments needed. So, and I will show this in the system in more details. In other words, if we sure that we can build, we can perform to our plan, we can actually build it, then we can configure the buffer, we can configure our model, right? So this is the small buffer size, because basically through configuring those buffers, we can properly set the materials planning. Materials planning is the box that aligns to actual market demands. So when the real customer orders appear, we will build up the priorities and we will execute to what market wants. And then we have the variance analysis or the return loop. This is the block of the reporting or the analytics, right? And we see, okay, we set up our model, we see upcoming demand, and we see the results. If we need, we can adjust the model and it's happening in an automated way, or we still can build a projection and see, okay, we expected, let's say, 15% growth in sale. In the next quarter, we already seen 25% growth. And if this is continuous, right, maybe in 2 or 3 months, we'll get out of the warehouse space or the production capacity or whatever. If this happens, okay, so what our action? What can we do, right, etc. So that's why they're shaded in different colors, because the problem of the strategic level cannot be solved on the operational, and vice versa, right? If I have a machine breakdown, I don't need the vice president for this, right? If the machine breakdown, I can change it, reschedule, take an extra shift tomorrow or whatever, because it's just an operational stuff. If we will give the task for our people to build way more than the machine actually can, they will not do it. And we should not be surprised that they did not perform this, because it's physically impossible, right? So we should not confuse those ranges. Those problems should be solved on a different levels. So as I said, so this is a link between strategy and operation, is this buffer. So let me show you what this buffer means. This buffer, it has 3 zones. The green one is basically responsible for minimum order quantities or consumption of order cycle. In other words, it regulates our flow, because it determines the frequency and the size of average order. By defining the green zone of the buffer, I will know how often and in which quantities I will be making orders, right? The yellow is consumption over a lead time, and the red is safety embedded in the buffer. So in other words, to build this buffer, to calculate this buffer, what do I need? First, my lead times, my MOQs, my order cycles, understanding of my environment variability, both supply and demand. So I have, and my plan consumption, or my past consumption, or my forecast. In other words, this buffer reflects my operational environment and company plans. So the size of those 3 zones, let me say this again. It describes our operational environment and company plans and our forecast, all in those 3 colors, right? So then making an order is very easy. I make an order, formula is very transparent, and it's the same if you purchase materials, planning production, or managing your distribution network. You making just one action. You take the whole size of the buffer minus the net flow. Okay, what is the net flow? Net flow is our current on hand plus supply order, what we've been ordered and we are waiting while we're being delivered, right? What is coming to us, our supply, and client orders minus client orders. In other words, let me sum up. The net flow, as you see, it's my current inventories in transit and what I have to ship today or in the future. All this reflects my current operational situation, what actually is happening, what actually market is currently demanding from us, what we actually need to ship or build. So in this formula, buffer minus net flow, let me explain what it actually means. As I said, buffer characterizes my operational environment, lead time, MOQs, order cycles, variability, etc., and even my plans. So characteristic of my environment and plans minus my current situation, what I currently have, what is my current client orders, my current supplies. So in this way, I do not have discrepancy between what I was planning and what I'm actually building. We do not have the conflict between the production that is trying to build, sticking to the effective plan, and the sales that are calling, hey, ignore your plan, we have order, build to your order. Because the first person that we will actually see that market is demanding something is the person that plans the production. Because if I will have the big client order in this part of the equation, how it will affect the system? It will lower this line from yellow to the red. In other words, the more, this is how example of this, how the screen looks like, right? The red, it means I'm very low at the buffer. Dark red, so I'm almost like zero, right? Red, I'm not in zero, but I still have the buffer. Yellow, it means it's time to order. Green, I have enough. You don't need to order. So with that, we are not just have the system that calculates how much you should build, but it builds you the system of relative priority. So if you will, you cannot build all your items just by clicking the hands, right? You, in most of the environments, you have physical limitations, and this clear like the traffic lights, it gives you the clear understanding not only of how much you have to build, but on which sequence, right? To be the most effective, to actually align your equipment, your inventories to what actually market wants, right? I will briefly describe what the blocks are we have in the system. So that one, the first one is materials planning. It builds the clearest priority and allows you to build what actually, and to purchase the components of what actually is required. We have the demand planning, is the system that builds forecasts. It does not make orders, does not calculate the safety stock. It just make a most accurate forecast as it can, and it provides the platform so your people can elaborate and change this forecast, edit this, and it will have the original version of the forecast, what your people edited that, and what value did they edit that they make forecast more accurate or less accurate, etc. Sales and operations planning, it's the model in the systems that allows you to see the future state of the supply chain. In other words, it shows you what is your current inventory and what inventories would be in 12 months from now, what the level of investment you should have in inventory to cover this expected demand, what the service level you can expect, what the average inventory levels would be, what's the load on the key equipment or lines would be by doing the rough cut capacity estimation, right? So we see, okay, this line would be okay, this would be overloaded, etc. That gives us some visibility. And the autopilot. Autopilot is the new feature. If in short, what it does, it helps you to maintain the system A, healthy, B, the most effective as it could be. And I give more details on this one. By maintaining healthy, it's all about the data hygiene and data quality. So system evaluates the data and gives the task to a planner, say, hey, this is, I see the issues with data, and I give you the examples later on. And to maintain the most effective system runs projection both in the past and in the future based on the forecast, solving what is the best inventory strategy, like put the dynamic buffer, put the static buffer, make this item make to order or purchase to order, right? What is the most effective for this environment, for this pattern, to build up the most value? And it's in the name that does it in an automated way without need of human interaction. Sorry. Okay. And the last but not the least, the scheduling execution. It's the part, is what is happening after we did our planning, after we have the orders. Are we really sure that our routing and our machines work in the best possible way? How effective it is? Did we build the correct schedule? Did we execute to the schedule? Where we have the constraints, etc. So case studies. Before we jump into those case studies, I would like to make a short demo, show you the system, and our case studies would be just right after this, where we'll make a deep dive in two projects that I am personally being part of, one in the pet food, one in the beverage industry. Okay, let me just, yep, I open. So this is, yeah, this is how the systems looks like. As I mentioned, we have materials planning, demand planning, sales and operation, execution, autopilot, and reporting. I will start from the simplest one, but it's not I would say the fundamental model of the system. It's called the materials planning. So if you go to the workbench, do you see the same priority I was talking about? If you remember this, we have the calculated reorder quantity on 150, 50, etc. But we also have not only the orders calculated, but we see which is more critical. It has 20% of the buffer, 15, etc. Right? So we have this priorities are very visual, and we know in which order we have to build. First the color, then the percentage. It gives us this priority we have to execute to, right? But what we can see here, we see our on-hand inventory. Let me slightly move. Our on-hand supply orders, demand orders, our net flow, which I mentioned, right? It's our on-hand plus supply minus demand. Top of yellow, top of green, in other words, the sizes of the buffer, what is average daily usage, etc. So there's a lot of column. It's easy configurable, but what I wanna focus here is that each time I click, for example, let's click on this one, on the part number, I see the window pop up, and in this window I have a lot of tabs. So basically, under one click, I have easy access to all the necessary information. For example, all activity tab. What is my on-hand inventory? What is my, I see I have the purchase order, right? So I see that 15 units will be delivered, when it will be delivered. I see the demand for work orders. So I see this concentrate would be used in the 2 work orders that will come up after this delivery, right? I can see separately supply orders, when it was created, when it should be delivered, etc. I see my demand allocations, when, again, separate in what quantity it will be used. I can see the analytics. So we see this black line, it's the actual on-hand inventory. So let's take for the last year, I want to see what my inventory look like, for example, for the last year. Again, this is the demo base, so you still can see that our inventory was like this. We didn't have any out of stocks or overstocks, which basically means that, hey, we can sorry, that we can lower our, let's say, safety stock, right? And we will look how the system can deal with this. Properties is basically all details we need to know about this item. What is the lead time, 30 days? What is the historical average consumption? What is our forecast? What we expect we will use this, right? What is the minimum order quantity, maximum? What is the order cycle, etc. So all This is the buy or make item, what is the raw material cost, what is the vendor, etc. So we have all this additional information. We have the buffer calculated. It has in units already, and it shows you in days as well for the planners for understanding, right? So we see that it's, in average, you would expect to have like 34 days of inventory. We do not have bill of material because it's not finished product, right, etc. So by doing this, I can see all this information and I can purchase all the components, right? But what is very interesting, I have this in units, right? If I have, I don't know, let's say some additional category, let's say, for example, inventory planning. Each column I can drop into this blue one. It helps me to segment my view. As you see, now I have like two groups of parts, and I have different priority of each of those, right? So I can, this helps me actually. This looks like a pivot table in the spreadsheets. This allows you group management. Why I'm showing this? Because I have pre-saved view, and I can, by pressing save current view, each time I open the system, I would see it exactly like this, right? And I can share this view by sharing just a link with my co-workers. If they had the access to the system, they will open the system, they will see the same view as I just did. So, for example, I can just select everything, approve orders, and that's it. So my work for purchasing the components done. I send the order, so that's my materials planning. But what if planning of production facility is a bit more complex than just making order, for example, for raw materials to our suppliers? Let's, like, I have pre-saved view for line 2. So when we are planning the line 2, for me, I am not actually interested in units, right, when I do the planning, but I am way more interested in time in this case. Again, in some environments, some companies are planning looking not on the time, but looking more at the like tons. Some companies plan in tons, some plan in pallets, some etc. We will look example why while we are planning in hours. So we have the reorder quantity calculated in units, and because we have the run rates, we can see that to build the 35,000 units, we need 14 hours. For 54,000, 21, etc. So I can, and I also split my parts by the material type. In this case, it's the size of the pack. If it's 24, 6 or 20, 24 sizes, right? For some companies, again, it's very more important not the size of the pack, like in this case, but it's more important vice versa to have build the same component. For example, in the pet food industry, it's more important if you build one component, then you can put in a different sizes. So this way you would have like a secondary, right? So the first one, you have the product, then the sizing, right? When you do the scheduling. But here, sorry, but here it is more important to look at the size of the pack, which is way more important than the product itself, because the changeover between B25 and B26 product names could be like 10 minutes, but if we will switch off from 12 to 24 packs, we can spend 5 hours changing the line, right? So it's very hard for us to switch from 24 to 12. In this case, we will select, okay, let's build everything what is in 12 pack. And again, what is very easy, we can just press manage orders and say, and look what we have. We have 68 hours of work, right? But let's say this week we have only 40 hours of work. Let's type 40. and optimize load. After we press, we indicated what actually the capacity we have, and we want this optimized, and system says, okay, here you go. There was 68, now you're building 62. Again, system is taking into consideration your lead times, your minimum order quantities, your order cycles, your plans, right? Your forecast, your on-hand inventories, what's already in supply, what client orders did we receive today, right? So it combines everything and it makes sure that you will have no out of stocks and no overstocks, and builds you this plan. And then you can just press submit orders, and those orders would be created in your host ERP system, wherever is the SAP or D365 or some other system. Okay, now if I know that I did all the job. The same, I can set up the view not only for, let's say, for production, but let's say for components or for suppliers. I know that at the beginning of the month I need to make order for this suppliers. System already calculated it. I just selected and approve selected orders, and I send those orders to suppliers, or I can manage them. For example, like a minimum spend, let's say not less than $10,000, or be equal to 33 pallet space if you want the full truckload. Yeah, full truckload in the European. Okay, with that, is there any question about ordering, about the materials planning? Please type in the chat. I will try to answer. Yep. Okay, so no questions. Yeah, we can go. So this is the workbench. Okay, the next one is, as I mentioned, the demand planning. I will be very short here. Okay, yes, thanks. Yes, thank you. No break. We can continue. So this what we have here is ABCXYZ table. So basically, the system shows you the highest volume and the highest volatility. So basically, parts where you need the most focus to. And then if you have high volume but very stable parts, probably you're good. You don't need really a lot of attention. Or low volume, that's basically you don't need a lot of, right? So you need to make sure you're focusing your people's attention on the parts that actually matter most. Let's just open this one part. You see this, the part number or location, and we see that it gives 14% of our volume, and it's 32% volatile month by month. By clicking on this eye, we can see the blue line was actual sales, and the dot, that's our retro forecast. In other words, we can see how we was forecasting, what was the actual sales, and we can see the red, what is the actual forecast. So this is the Intuiflow forecast we see. By pressing this human icon, we see what the corrections was made, right? So by looking at this, let's say my people did the corrections and I have no idea if it's good or not, right? I can go to KPI and I can see that historically my Intuiflow forecast is 77% accurate, and the user is 67% accurate. So the value added, the value that my people added to forecast accuracy is minus 10 points, minus 10%, or plus 10% in increasing the forecast error, right? Because the accuracy and error is the two sides of one coin, right? And the bias. Bias is not how accurate we are, but how biased or how moved our average, our total volume compared to the sales. Are we over forecasting or under forecasting? Shows that the system is biased for 1% over those 5 months, but the user is biased 10%. So and we have in units. So we over forecasted 7, let's say 7 pallets. User over forecasted 48 pallets, right? So way more way more, right? And we can see which months, etc. So this is on the SKU level. But if we go to forecast edition, this tool allows us to first aggregate. I will use this aggregation field. So I can say, I want to see all parts based on location, or I want to see family and location. Let's see family and location, confirm. Now the system is building, again, it's close to what we see in the spreadsheet, like a pivot table. And we see, okay, so this is family or the brand or the product category type, whatever is the aggregation field. Let's say in Milano, we expect in September 30% growth. I will type 100%, 30%, enter. And now all part numbers that are inside this family, inside this location, I just added them 30% growth. And now I can see all the edits highlighted red. Anytime I can click to the system forecast, and now I can see what was the system forecast and what human edit was, right? And I can see not only by the part number, I can go to KPI and I can see the system level, right? Let's aggregate just by location. I want to see, let's say each plant or each distribution, how I want to see the example like error, right? How accurate, or the accuracy percentage, how accurate are my forecast, right? And I see like average accuracy 84%, 81, 67, etc. And the system and the user, right? And the value added. So I can see both the system, what after the users, and what values they added. Usually on average, they add in 1 point for in Milan and Paris, which is at least some value. But in Madrid and London, we can see that we have minus 15 points in accuracy and minus 10 points. So now we can ask questions, right? Why this is happening, and maybe there is just no point in editing the forecast. Maybe it would be even better without doing this, etc. So this is just demand planning. If you have again any questions about the demand planning, please say. But what happens next? Okay, we have the forecast. We edited it. Now we know it makes sense. What is the next step? The next step is the projection. So let's take, for example, this part number. This is how the 1 year ahead projection looks like. And again, the black line is daily inventory movement projection. We can do the projected supply. In other words, we could see each part, how much and when are we going to produce or purchase. Projected inventory, it shows you average in this table, right? Daily inventory levels. So, and you can see average for the year and average for the months. Having this, you can easily convert those units again into pallets, tons, cubic meters, whatever. This is very good for estimating. For example, if you expect your sales to grow 20% at the end of this year, how much would it cost you in the warehouse space, right? How it will affect the warehouse space, how it will affect the capacity load, right? So by having, again, by clicking on each part, we have this panel and we have the analytics, which let's say 12 months back. Now I see how my system behaved, what was the on-hand inventory last year, right? Last calendar year daily, right? And these blue bars are indicating my actual demand, my actual sales daily, how I was selling, how my inventory fluctuated, and the projection shows me the different picture. It shows me from today, let's say in the January, right, or March, February, January 25, what the inventory I'm planning to have, how my supply chain would look like, right? So it's not for everyday job, everyday work, making orders. It's for the executives, right? To have those projections to make sure that we are capable of performing this, right? And again, the rough cut capacity. So it's the same same model, just another tab, rough cut capacity. It can show you, for example, I have 3 lines at this production at the bottler, and I see that line number 3, this is my capacity I have, and the blue is my projected work, right? How much am I planning to build this, right? So turns out that I'm quite good for some time now, but from let's say mid-August, I will be having some problems, right? So we need to, we can take a look at more. Is it just to understand if it's like, temporary, maybe season, or we plan this to have for extended period of time, and then we can affect this, right? Can we? Maybe it's time to increase prices, add capacity, add one more person. If we cannot do it, maybe we can extend days or make extra shift or whatever. So basically there's only two ways how we can affect this, or we decrease the demand by increasing the price or something like that, or we increase our throughput by changing how we can affect this, right? And the last but not least is the projection. So this shows you in which state of planning, I mean, our parts would look like. So it shows you distribution of parts. As you see, for now we have like roughly 50% of parts in excess inventories and 50 in the optimal condition. But in time, we expect this to change, right? And in time, we see that our on-hand inventory currently is around 13 million, will drop to somewhere 8.5, 9, less than 7 even. But roughly, system gives you the simulation result summary. If you would use this tool 1 year from now, your inventory will drop from 13 to 8 million. You will save roughly 5 million inventories, and your inventories, you will have the service level 99.6%, right? So it's the projections of the future. It's not day-to-day ordering as we've seen before, but I'm just trying to give you the grasp of the models, right? And the least model is the autopilot. I'll be very short here. So this is what we see here is the data exceptions. System builds data. You can easily download it, export in spreadsheet just by clicking this. So in other words, it shows this is the part numbers that have no statistical, no history, no forecast, just have no data. System says, hey, I cannot manage this part. Because it has no data, no history, right? I have no lead times, no MOQs. I have no material cost. My minimum order quantity is greater, so my MOQ is greater than demand for the whole past year, right? If I'm having minimum order quantity more than a year of consumption, I don't really need any safety stocks. I don't need any advanced calculations because the MOQ itself is the key problem. This is the key driver of my high inventories and low efficiency. So I need to focus this. Maybe we have some expire part pattern. What does mean expire part? I have demand, let's say 9 months, and the last 3 months, I have zero consumption. Take a look. Maybe we should not have this pattern stock or whatever, new demand pattern. So if we have demand only recent period, let's say only last 1 month or last 2 months or something, just to keep focus that, hey, this is a new part, right? We still need to gather some data. Okay, this is the data hygiene. But and now I want to show you the autopilot. So what does the autopilot? Autopilot was built for the request of the big clients. So even if you have the systems that automatically manages your inventory, there is still a load for planners to maintain the system. You need to recalculate your buffers, verify your buffers, what the levels should be, etc. And it again takes skill, takes time, and it's not what you very fast can learn. So now the system does this in an automated way, and it gives you the autopilot summary. Say, I recalculated 94 parts. In total, you have 12 millets in inventory. If you will use autopilot, you need only 5. You can save like 7, and you can reach this level of service level, let's say like 100% service level. And you can just open, let's open any part by clicking on the part number, and you will see those projections why system thinks like this. When we go to the autopilot summary, you see there is different service level. System run all those projections, and by doing just one click, let's say service level A, or when the system is targeting 100% service level, 1 second, system is building the projection, and it's all real-time calculation. Yeah, so that's why it takes a few seconds. So the system will say, hey, you see, this is how I manage the system would manage like the last year, and I can reach the 100% service level with no stockouts, but I need like 52,000 in inventories, right? Or I can be static, and I again can reach 100% service level, but it will cost me more because obviously the trend is downside, and the static buffer is not that responsive, which means it's less effective, right? So this is again one of the biggest, I would say, advancements. Our brands are so wired that if you could be more agile, if you could just recalculate faster, which basically we are doing, recalculating this buffer like every day, right? But so we could be more close to what actually market wants. But after doing hundreds of those analysis in different companies, I find out that, and in different environments, turns out that there is some trends that are firm and actual trends, and in which you can identify and evaluate and act accordingly and gain benefits. But there is a lot of noise. Sometimes a bigger sale is just actually a bigger sale one time, and tomorrow it will not happen again. And not all the environments has the demands like this that are very relatively stable and repeatable, etc. Sometimes they're chaotic. Sometimes you can have 3 or 4 demand pulses for the whole year, and the dynamic system in those sporadic environment, when you have just few demand pulses, each one is unpredictable. Dynamic buffer could make even the system worse, because after you have the spike, you have bigger buffer, then it adapting because you have no demand. So system thinks you don't really need anything, then you have another big spike, etc. So in this chaotic and uncertain environment, static buffer could be more beneficial, and vice versa. If you expect a seasonality, upward or downward trend, dynamic buffer is more beneficial. That's why where machine learning steps in, identifying those trends, behavior, and changing those optimal offers for each part number to be as efficient as possible. So basically, that's it. Let me just open the home page. So we discussed materials planning, how the planning looks like. We touch the forecasting, projection, and what is the vision behind the autopilot. Now I want to get back to the case studies. And remember, if you have some questions, please type in the chat box after each block. I'll look and give you the feedback. Okay, so now let's see how our other clients actually done this. So I would start from the Kormotech. I was the manager of this project, right? I was leading this project from the integrator from the ABM Cloud side, right? So this is the first plant. It's actually built in the western part of the Ukraine. It's Ukrainian company. So I remember when we was doing this project, it was 2017, and the owner said that they are planning to be in the top 250 companies in the pet food global industry, right? So recently I checked, despite of the war in Ukraine, despite when the war started, they lose 40% of the market. Sales just one day sold 40%. The whole market, Belarus, what was the key market, one of the biggest market, obviously was stopped because of the military aggression, right, from the neighbors. So Despite this, they refocused more again on the West, on the export into the Europe, Americas, in Asias. So now they are in the top 50, and if not mistaken, for I think it was a week or 2 weeks ago, they are number 49 in the world. Can you imagine that? Company from Ukraine, despite of the war, now it's number 49 in the pet food industry global, right? So yeah, they have few plants not only in Ukraine, also in Lithuania, warehouses in Europe, etc. And all this supply chain is being managed inside one system, from purchasing the components to central warehouse, and even the distribution network also in the system, right? So this is the another plan. What are the results looks like? They managed to increase their production volume total by 40%. It's all in the terms of 1 year, right? So we started in 2017, right? This is this. Yeah, let me 1 second. Let me make the pointer. So this is the production volume. This is the sales, right? This red box, it's just showing how they was working before, right? They was trying to hit what actually market wants. They use the forecast. They use the forecast, and then based on the forecast, they build the production plan. They was executed with the production plan. The problem appeared that they forecast. They was building the production plan was confirmed, and it was firm for the whole week, right? And they every Tuesday they planned this production plan for the next week, and the problem became the Monday or just few days after the plan was confirmed. First one, you do not have the clear priorities. Out of this list, what actually is super urgent, right? You have some notes or the information from the distribution. They have, okay, this is more important, but the personal production facility does not see anything, right? He has just the production plan. And you have the urgent calls, hey, build this product or this one or this, etc. But with having this clear, the traffic lights priorities, red, blue, and yellow, after we done this, we stop relying on the plans, and we will stop focusing those plans that has to be produced weekly. Yes, I still have the annual planning, the quarterly, monthly, etc. But it's for, like the strategic views. They are not using this for operations. They are not actually purchasing components based on this, and they are not planning based on those quarterly or monthly plans. They have the system on the daily level. So each day, the manager opens the screen, he sees some numbers of red and yellow, and he just selects, okay, this is what I will build a day from now, not tomorrow, a day from now, right? And tomorrow he sees what he will build in 2 next days, right? That allows you to be very agile, and because you see all the sales in the system, your actual on-hand inventory is what currently are being finished in the work, right? You know that you connected your assets as close as possible to what actually market wants. And it was actually very hard to change the mindset, because there was concern that if we will do this, if we will change this to the system, we will lose sales, we'll drop in efficiency, because if you not have the firm plan and you're always building by what system tells you, you probably will not be efficient. And turns out vice versa, because if you have the small plan, you build it and you have some time. If you have very big plan, it's very hard to build. Sometimes you cannot have even enough components to build it. That's why if you look here at the black line, the production one, you see how they was fluctuating. It's when they was building by the plan. And can you see what happened with the blue line? It's the weekly volumes in tons, how much was sold, and what happened to the production, it's stabilized. Can you imagine being effective if you are at this point? You can, right? You have all your 3 lines working. You have all your like 500 people in the plant working, for example. But what happened next week? Did you fire most of your people? Or what happened to your raw material inventories? Did they disappear? No, you still have all of this. You still have those 3 plants, but your total output is much less. Why? Because you built up to the plan. And in a plan, the plan was like this, right? What happened the next week? Can you imagine the difficulty of planning your stuff if your volumes are fluctuating like this? Not only planning stuff, but having the right amounts of inventories, right? It's very hard to be effective in this way. But does it really hard to plan your stuff, be more efficient? If can you see what happens with this volume of weekly production when it actually get very stable? Obviously, you can be more efficient by definition if your operational environment get stable, right? So you get more benefits. That's the whole idea behind the Six Sigma methodology, right? If you decrease the volatility, you will increase the efficiency of the whole system, of the throughput itself. The next case study, I would put the Coca-Cola. Why they're interesting? This is the Barry Anderson, head of Coca-Cola Beverages Africa, on the conference in Amsterdam 2019. He said that they managed to cut the number of out of stocks 3 times, the same time decrease number of inventories by 30%. And what interesting here is that the forecast accuracy remained the same. This is very, I would say, very important point, because in our supply chain world, there is a myth, it's very popular, that as long as I can increase forecast accuracy, all my problems will go away. There is 2 problems with this statement. The first one, no, because there is, even if you will have 100% forecast accuracy, there is some levels of self-imposed variability and the system reliability that you cannot be efficient even with the 100% forecast. And the second point, obviously 100% forecast accuracy cannot be achievable because there is no solution in the past data how the future would look like. There is just no answer there. We can make some estimates, but we do not know, right? You do not know what you do not know. So this is example of the data. This is the level of out of stocks they have, and on time in full, and the forecast accuracy. So all those years they were struggling with the forecast accuracy, and turns out that they have dramatically decreased the out of stocks, increased the on time in full with the same level of forecast accuracy. So we see still fluctuating between 60 to 70, right? In this range, 65, 68. This is the last year before the conference, they end up even with the lower level of forecast accuracy, still yet with the highest results before. So by ending this, you can again take a look at the results from our projects and the company DTTech, the developer of the software. So, and just take a look wherever you are on the scale, right? What are your industry? Wherever we had some FMCG, right? The food industry, for example. And you can see what is the average inventory level decrease, the salary increase, and the service levels, right? So we see, we can see those results. And if you're still not convinced, right, that it can bring value to the company, please, you can scan this QR code, right, and just left your contact information, and we can do this autopilot, we can do these projections, and we can see, okay, this is your parts. you was managing them like this. If you would use the system, we would have this amount of inventories and we would have this service level to estimate, right? Any questions? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So with that being said, I will have you for with the screen for just a few moments still, so you can get on board and reach out to us so we can do the simulation and evaluate your results, right, for your company. And thank you for your time. Yeah, and sorry for taking more time than expected, but I hope you find out something new and useful. Okay.